Oh, the things you can think when you think about Seuss.
Theodore Seuss Geisel, or more commonly known as Dr. Seuss, is one of the most globally influential authors of children's books. Before becoming interested in writing children's literature, Seuss worked with many different magazines as an illustrator and writer. In 1931, Seuss began writing children's stories, but he was soon distracted by the war in Europe. As America began to prepare for and get more involved with the war overseas, Seuss began creating political cartoons for a New York City daily newspaper called PM. While working at PM, Seuss created over 400 cartoons, urging Americans to become more involved with the war while challenging commonplace beliefs. After his time working with PM, Dr. Seuss used children's books and rhymes to make political commentary on social issues. Although children may not understand the underlying propaganda within these books, Dr. Seuss uses his writing to influence young minds in order to inform them of the issues around them. A few of Seuss's books with clear political undertones are Yertle the Turtle, The Lorax, and the Butter Battle Book.
Yertle the Turtle is a story about a turtle who wanted to rule. He forced the turtles to make a throne because he was very cruel. There is another turtle. His name was Mac. He wasn't very happy at the bottom of the stack. Yertle wanted to go higher because the more he could see, the more he was king of, the more powerful he would be. But Mac said no to Yertle's request, and then he burped because he was distressed. Then Yertle fell. He got stuck in the mud, and the turtles were free as he fell with a thud. Written in 1958, Yertle the Turtle was more than a simple children's story. Rather, it was a response to the growing concerns of imperialism. Yertle the Turtle is said to be representative of various dictatorships throughout World War II that were gaining a foothold within society, such as Stalin, Mussolini, and Hitler. Similar to these absolute rulers, Yertle attempted to consolidate power and extend his authority by building up his throne. At the same time, Yertle cared little for how he treated others. While the turtles at the bottom of the stack were facing constant pain from the increasing weight, Yertle refused to listen to their requests. Yertle's treatment to the turtles is an allusion to the cruel, inhumane, and ruthless regimes of said absolute rulers such as Hitler's infamous Holocaust. Dr. Seuss's commentary through the responses of Mac and the other turtles as they gain their freedom is a parallel to his belief that all people should be free, rather than subjugated to the rule of dictators. This is especially clear when Dr. Seuss says, "And the turtles, of course, all the turtles are free, as turtles and maybe all creatures should be." This message was imperative to this time because of the nationalistic sentiment that was growing within America. Being a beacon of democracy to the world, the United States saw it as their moral duty to extend not only democracy, but also their influence to everyone. This quote can be taken as referring to the Jews in Germany or any other oppressed racial group.
The Lorax is a story of the Onceler, who chopped down a truffle tree because he wanted money for his many needs. The Lorax was unhappy. He hated the Thneeds. He didn't like the Onceler, for he loved his truffle trees. The animals were scared, the sky turned gray, the pond turned to muck, nobody could stay. But in no time at all, every single tree was gone, and the Lorax left. It was time to move on. The Lorax, written in 1971, was published in response to the increasing environmental progress that had characterized the 1960s. During this time, the government began taking important steps towards a cleaner America. In 1963, the Federal Clean Air Act was passed and was designed to control levels of air pollution on a national level. The period from 1965 to 1970 was filled with lawsuits trying to bring justice to growing levels of pollution. Many lawsuits against the factories, including automobile makers and trade associations, were filed in response to such concerns. Critics and policymakers charged such industries of spoiling water and air supplies by releasing toxic and hazardous wastes into the environment. In 1970, the Environmental Protection Agency was created as an agency of the federal government to protect human health and the environment. The slogan, "Give Earth a Chance," began spreading throughout America, and soon the nation celebrated the first ever Earth Day later that year. Seuss continued this push for environmental action in 1971 by publishing The Lorax. Dr. Seuss tried to motivate children to initiate environmental actions by informing them of what could happen if no one took care of the environment. Seuss not only illustrated the impact factories could have on the environment, including deforestation and habitat destruction, but also showed that in order to make a difference, people have to take action in order to make change, rather than just sitting back and waiting for others. This is especially clear when Seuss says, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better, it's not." Recently, America has witnessed a revival in environmentalism sentiment. Current disasters such as the BP oil spill and recent deforestation have led environmentalists to raise awareness for Earth's protection. In combination with recent efforts to reduce the country's carbon footprint, the Lorax movie was released. During a period where global warming is a prominent societal issue, this film offers a much-needed push to promote and publicize for environmentalism.
The Butter Battle book, all about red vs. blue, where the Zooks and the Yooks fight with machines that were brand new. The machines grew bigger and the tension increased. As they looked over the wall, the fighting did not cease. Van Itch and Chief Yookaroo stood on the wall, waiting to see who would take it all. Published in 1984, the Butter Battle book was written to show Cold War sentiment between the United States and the Soviet Union. This is especially seen in Dr. Seuss's color choices for the Zooks and the Yooks, blue and red. Not only is the Cold War symbolized through Seuss's color choices, but he also uses the wall dividing the Zooks and the Yooks to represent both the Berlin Wall and the Iron Curtain. Seuss also names the weapons in the book in order to allude to nuclear weapons that the U.S. had used in Japan. It is believed that the Bitsy Big Boy Boomeroo represents the Fat Man and the Little Boy, nuclear bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. One very important part of the Butter Battle book is the cliffhanger ending. At the end of the book, a Zook and a Yook are standing on top of the wall, each waiting for the other to make a move. This is clearly representative of the state of the Cold War at the time that Seuss published the book. In 1984, it was unclear how the war would end, or what would happen. Neither country wanted to make the first move in starting a nuclear war, just as neither character in Seuss's book wanted to drop their weapon first. Seuss also used the illustrations in his book to show the growing tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, as well as to demonstrate the similarity in weapons that were created. Not only does the Butter Battle book create a sort of timeline of the Cold War, but Dr. Seuss also uses this book to make political commentaries about his views of the war. Many scholars believe that by comparing the Cold War to a menial issue of whether bread should be butter side up or butter side down, Dr. Seuss was saying that the Cold War was foolish and pointless. Although there was a good reason behind the war, Seuss uses the fight between the Zooks and the Yooks to show how war was dragging on longer than necessary. Soon, it became more of a competition over who had the best weapons, rather than a means of preventing the spread of communism. The scene at the very end of the book also showed the futility of the war, as well as the possibility of mutual destruction. The Butter Battle book got too out of hand, just like the Cold War.
Yertle the Turtle, the Lorax, and the Butter Battle book all seem to offer clear morals, not only to children, but to adults as well. Seuss quietly alludes to his political opinions within his books, subtly referencing anti-imperialism, environmentalism, the Cold War, and the arms race, among other concerns, in order to illuminate such ideas to children and their parents. Children generally read the works of Dr. Seuss simply as a form of entertainment. Practically unknowingly, however, their minds are being molded to the frames of politics presented to them by Dr. Seuss. Although children may remain oblivious to the underlying propaganda and political commentaries hidden within his stories, Seuss writes about such ideas in order to get them excited and more involved. His books help children become more aware of simple societal themes such as warfare, civil rights, and preservation, and hope that they take away these traditional American beliefs.
Think about Seuss.